In this demonstration, we're going to talk about section breaks. Section breaks are one of those things that most people don't know exist in Microsoft Word. They can do some very neat things. So to do that, we're going to open up a document and I'll show you what they can do. Normally, you would need to know how to use section breaks if you're writing a long document. So for example, in a large document, sometimes your table of contents or the first few pages of your paper require different numbering scheme, and once you get to the body or the content of the paper, you need to start numbering your pages back at page number 1. So if you've ever used Microsoft Word before, if you don't know how to use section breaks, it's not possible to start renumbering your pages. So section breaks would allow this. So to demonstrate, let me just type some text on this first page here, and I'm just going to type page 1, and I'm going to make that a little bit bigger so we can see it. Now if I want to go down to the next page to put some more content on the second page, I could keep on hitting enter until I get to the second page, and let me do that right now. And we'll type page 2. But this really isn't the right way to do things, because if I were to go back up to page 1 and start typing some more content, if I scroll back down to page 2, you'll notice that there's now a gap here because I hit the enter key up at the top, so it bumped this page down. To do it properly, let me just delete all this. It's called a page break. So if I go to the insert, and over here there's page break, then now the shortcut on this is control return. So if you were to hit the control return or the control enter key, it's going to do the same thing. But let me just click this button here, and now what it's done is it's jumped me down to the second page. So if I type page 2, it looks like it did before. We have page 2, and up here we have page 1. But any sort of content I add here, and now if I scroll down, you're going to notice that page 2 is still there. It's never going to move because there's a page break here, meaning that this page 2 text is always going to be at the top of a page. So even if I were to run off of the screen, let me just put some more text down here, and now I went to another page, it has now bumped the entire page down to page 3. So if I come down here, page 2, which is actually on page 3, it's still at the top. Now if you go back to the show hide button here, if I were to click that, you can actually see the invisible characters. So you can see the hard returns that we hit, which is this symbol here, and you can also see the page break that we inserted, and it's indicated by page break. So if you're ever wondering where page breaks are, you can hit this button up here, the show and hide, and it will show you the invisible characters. So I'm going to delete everything. I've just selected all and I've deleted, and I'm going to turn off those hidden characters, and we're going to start again. So let's insert a header into this document, and I'm just going to I'm going to put in a blank header, and in this header I'm going to type "this is my header," and I'm going to make that bigger so we can read it. And now I am going to go down to the second page, and by doing that I'm going to put in a page break. And you'll notice that the header is the same on every page you do. In fact, I'll make another page break. We'll have 3 different pages. And so if you notice, we have 3 pages and the header is identical on each page. If we were to change the text in one, so I've just double clicked on the header to activate that. So if I just put in this test up in the very header on page 1, if we scroll down to the second and third pages, you'll notice it's updated on all of them. So if we didn't want to do that, say we want to have different headers on different portions of the page, we use the section breaks, and that really breaks the pages up into different sections. You kind of group them together, and you can use these section breaks to be able to divide up headers, page numbering if you have to restart your page numbers on a certain section, and also things like page orientation. A lot of the page formatting attributes you can do based on these sections. So after the first page, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the page layout, and over here there is this button called Insert Page and Section Breaks. If I click on that and I go down to a section break, actually up here the page break, this is the one that I just demonstrated right here. This is another place where you can insert one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a next page section break. So it kind of acts like a page break and a section break. It'll bring you down to the next page. So now I have a section break, and if I go back here and I show the hidden characters, if I scroll back up, you'll see I have a page break, and then after that I have a section break in here. So if I go down to the second page, and you can see here this header, it says over here same as previous. That means that it's going to be linked, or it's going to be identical to the header in the first section. So you can see here I have header section 2 because I'm after that section break, so it's numbered at section 2. If I scroll up to the top, this is the header in section 1. Now by default it's going to link them together so that they're the same. If we want to delink them and we want to have different headers in each section, we can press this button right here. It's called Link to Previous. And now what we can do is, because we've unchecked that, is we can modify the headers to have them differently. So if I erase, say, this test text that I put in, and let's just turn off those hidden characters just so they don't get in the way, and I go back up to the top, you'll see how they're different. So the section 1 header, whatever I do to it, say make it a different color, it's not going to change the header in section number 2. So now you have two completely different headers. And the same thing happens for, say, page orientation. If I were to come down to the page number 2 and I go to page layout and I change the orientation to landscape, oh sorry, because the insertion point was on page 1, it actually changed the orientation on page 1. So page 1 is now landscape, but if I scroll down you'll see section 2 is still the portrait orientation. So that's how you use section breaks, and you can do more. You can also do page numbering and the orientation of the page layout. You can change the size of the pages as well. So if I click on section 2 and I change the size to legal, now section 2 is size legal paper, and yet section 1 up here is still the regular sized letter size paper. And that concludes this demonstration.